Hey guys, welcome to another episode of SEO on Air. Today we have a special guest. So she's been the president of COGO Interactive since 2009. Her name is Peg, Peg Dermott. Hey Peg, welcome to our show.
Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. So guys, like I mentioned, Peg has been the president of COGO Interactive. COGO Interactive is a leading digital marketing agency in Washington, D.C. They specialize in inbound marketing and lead development for B2B companies. They serve various industries, especially in technology, professional services, and healthcare. And they're also experts in website development, SEO, social media marketing, and stuff. So, Peg, you want to add anything here?
No, that covers it. Thank you.
Great. Yes. So the topic for today is about local businesses, the local optimization when it comes to SEO part. Of course, everybody knows that SEO, it's an ocean. There's a lot of things around it. People talk about international SEO, national SEO, and local SEO stuff. So that's quite a lot of things there. And we specifically wanted to talk about local SEO because now is the time where the lockdown and all the other crazy things happening around. And a lot of businesses are taking this time out and to get their digital strategy right in place. This is the time where more people will be looking at getting their digital assets ready. And so Peg is here, so we're going to ask her some questions related to how the businesses can optimize their local SEO stuff and get a very good visibility in the search results. Great. So Peg, the first question that we have is about how do these small businesses can get this local optimization done properly? Because what is the starting point for any business? Consider that the business it's just a brick and mortar shop. They have no website. They're just starting new. So in local optimization, what do you think is the recommended first step that they should be doing? And it'll be great if you can cover more insights around it.
Sure. The very first place to start is to make sure that your website is technically sound, because that is a ranking factor that Google takes into account, and that includes how mobile friendly the website is. They're really placing a huge emphasis on mobile search and that experience with the user. Website speed is very important. And other things like making sure there aren't broken links on the website and that the site is properly optimized or it's technically sound. Once you've been able to determine that, and there are many ways, Google has a lot of tools that you can use to test mobile friendliness as well as website speed, and you just need to Google that and those tools should come up pretty readily. It's also important to generate a sitemap. Once the site has been technically sound or strengthened, if there have been any issues, those need to be taken care of first, and then generate a sitemap and make sure that Google has that sitemap so it can crawl every page of your site. Without any of those things in place, all the local SEO you do won't matter because Google needs to be able to find the site, number one, and number two, it needs to be at par with Google's technical standards. And again, the mobile friendliness and the website speed really are two of the top considerations to take into account when making sure your site's technically sound. Then once you've been able to generate a sitemap, then you want to be able to claim your Google My Business page. And that's a free directory that Google has built. It used to be Google Maps. It's called Google My Business now. It's much more extensive than it used to be in terms of the type of content you can upload. And you can, again, when you've logged into your Google account, you can just Google My Business and that will come up for you. And it'll ask you if you don't already have a page created, if you'd like to create one. And I absolutely recommend that you do because all the local SEO that you do really surrounds this Google My Business page because that is going to be the factor that gets you into that local map pack. So when you're doing a search and you see those three SERPs in the map location, that really is a function of a Google My Business page and other things like reviews, and we can get into that more deeply later in the podcast. But that Google My Business page is the one thing that you want to make sure you've claimed, and it's all based on your phone number and your address, which are the name of your business, the address, and the phone number, which is the NAP. And that has to be consistent across the board. So those are really the first things you want to be looking at: technical soundness, and then making sure that you've claimed your Google My Business page.
Great. So now that most of the people are focusing on local SEO, so national SEO is going out, isn't it? So what do you think? Why do you think that local SEO is more important compared to doing it in a nationwide?
I don't know that it's more important. I think that Google is placing more of an emphasis on the user experience. And so if the company is international or national, that certainly doesn't mean they shouldn't optimize their website. They can optimize it nationally and internationally. There are ways in which you can do that effectively. What I would recommend, though, is that if you have specific locations in specific cities, that you create pages within your website that speak to those cities, and you embed a Google map on those pages, and you talk about that location. And then you create a Google My Business page for each of those cities or the locations within the city. And that helps Google to see your footprint around the country and around the world. And if you can sort of take that, you start internationally or nationally, and so you drill down into the local locations where that company is located, and then you optimize your website for those specific locations, and you create a Google My Business page, you're going to be able to get the advantages of a national and international SEO and local SEO. And that's pretty powerful when you combine those things. But you really cannot overlook the local SEO. It's really important. Google, it doesn't mean you won't rank. It means that you will probably not rank as quickly or as competitively. Great, if you don't have the SEO in place. So there's a lot of ways national and international companies can leverage that.
Yeah, true. And also it depends on the service, isn't it? For example, if it's an online product, which is, if it's like a CRM, CRM provider. So I don't think they need to have a local, optimization done, because anyways, their product is going to be directly, you sign up for that SaaS tool and you're going to use it. But it really depends on, the whole local strategy or national strategy. I think you can Google it out yourself about the business that you're in, the service that you're offering, and see what Google already thinks about that search results. Because if I'm going to search for CRM, buy CRM, or maybe, something else, maybe buy clothes or something like that, we can literally see if Google is showing the local pack, or are they showing the e-commerce websites or those kind of aggregators. That could be a good signal for us to decide whether it's, Google itself thinks that this kind of, people are expecting not a local pack, maybe they're expecting a website, irrespective of the search, irrespective of the location. If Google is actually triggering the local pack for such kind of keywords, then maybe you should plan your strategy around the local SEO. Does that make sense, Peg? Is that something which people can take some cues around it and plan their strategy?
The more online-based businesses that really can't speak to a local location can still make sure their SEO footprint is solid. And the way they do that is to make sure their content has been set up in a way that Google loves. And that's the people also ask, and they want to be setting up their Q&A on their about pages. That is what Google is looking for, making sure that schema markup has been baked into the site. And also in that instance, in that example, they would want to obviously push that organic SEO with paid search engine marketing overall, because people are online looking for a service or a way in which you can help make their lives easier. And if you have people or search intent keywords or keyword phrases that you've taken the time to research, whether you're local, regional, national, or international. It's all about human beings using a search engine to find a service they need. It's always about what's in it for me. Always. And so the bigger picture is making sure that the content speaks to your audience's pain points and how you bring value to their lives. And really savvy businesses, regardless of where they're located or their size, understand this. And those that don't understand it, they need to learn, because it's people doing business with people, right? And we write content for humans, but we make sure we're technically sound for Google. And so when you have those two things going, you have a powerful mix, and people can feel that. They can feel it, and they will, if your calls to action are strong enough, they'll buy from you. They'll at least inquire about your services.
Absolutely. And yeah, and now that you have this local pack and the optimization done, Peg, the critical thing, there's a downside to some of the things. Every coin has another side. So the reviews perspective, probably one of the reasons why people are afraid on this is because you're opening doors to people to review your product or service in the Google map itself. Some of the businesses might be hurt because of some of the negative reviews that people post. I mean, not every review is going to be positive, of course, but people are gaming the system, right? Some of the competitors adding some negative reviews. I mean, these things are there. So how do these businesses can tackle this kind of a situation strategically?
It's a really good question. Reviews are really important in any SEO strategy, because people want that third-party credibility. And that's the first thing. And it's also the tipping point when someone is doing a search and you end up in that local map pack or in the organic searches. That can be, all things being equal online, which perceptively they are. When they see those reviews, that can be the tipping point as to whether they'll click through or not. And so if a competitor has 18 4.5-star reviews and you have 1.5-star reviews, that's not going to bode well for your click-through rate. So it's important to make sure that you publish to your clients your Google review link, and you can get that from your Google My Business page. Right. Google will provide that to you. And you don't want to incentivize them to give you a review. You want them to be able to review you honestly based on their experience with you. And so once they've done that and those reviews start to show up in searches, that's going to help your click-through rate. It's also going to help how much traffic hits your site. So it's important to make sure the Google review link has been generated and that you share it with your clients and customers. And then you want to make sure that if you're in a specific industry, that you have some reviews in specific trade review sites. Yelp is okay, but there's been some controversy around how Yelp has been categorizing reviews and how many they hide and how many they show. So I'm not saying it's not important. I'm just saying you want to make sure that you have enough of a review mix that when someone finds you in a search, they see on your Google My Business page several 4-star reviews, 5-star reviews, right? But they scroll down and they see all these other 5-star reviews and all these other review sites. That's just building credibility. It's thought leadership, right? People have worked with this company and they have found the company to be reputable. They have found it to be, their services are solid. They are reliable. And that is what people need. They need to feel that confidence if they're going to call you. And trust me, when someone calls you or fills out a form online or calls you via chat or connects with you via chat, they've already done 70% of their research. So they've gotten to you because you've done your job online, right? And then it's up to you to let them know how you can help solve their problem, right? They'll go
Yeah.
to the website, and the whole website user experience is another question I know we'll get into. But that is really the path that people take to get to you. And reviews can either be a way in which you welcome a new customer, or it can be a gate that blocks them from you. And any review that you get, respond to it, even a negative review, especially a negative review.
Right.
The other thing that with reviews is people understand that nobody is perfect, right? There are going to be some 3 and 4 star reviews, and that's okay. It actually has more of an honest feel to it, right? But if they see overall, when they scroll down and they see that 3-star review, that's the first thing they're going to look at, right?
Yeah.
It was not as positive as you'd like, but if you responded to it in a way that you are helpful and you want to solve the problem, then that really actually helps you in the long run, because it shows that if there is an issue, you're going to step up and address it. So always respond to your reviews.
Absolutely. I mean, in fact, we ourselves, when we are doing, the local search for some of the, again, I'm bringing in a restaurant example. If I'm going to see, 200 people given 5-star ratings, it actually raises a, perception. Maybe these are like fake reviews. But if the same restaurant, another restaurant which is having 4 or even 3.7 or whatever, still it gives a trust feel, because it's quite impossible to, nearly 500 plus reviews. I've seen some businesses showing 500 plus reviews and everything is 5-star. That's like, that's not possible, isn't it? These kind of things literally make people think, isn't it?
Exactly. And so it feels more human, right?
Yep.
And it feels like, okay, this rings true for me. It has an honest feel to it. And on top of it, they responded to a review that wasn't as positive as you would have liked. That can really work in your favor. But if you don't respond, that's a response. If you don't respond, that's a response to people. It's like you didn't address it. So it's really important to do that. One thing I wanted to mention is, in the technical part, what I'd forgotten to share is that you want to make sure too that you have Google Analytics set up on your website as well, because Google and Google Search Console. And if you have a Google account, you can access all of these Google tools through your Google account, right? A Gmail account, basically. And it's pretty easy to add the code to your website, every page of the website, so every page is tracked, right, in your analytics account. And on the Search Console side, that really measures the health of the website, if there's any security issues, any technical issues, and it's where you upload your sitemap. So this can get a little technical, but it's our world, right? I mean, this is what makes the online world go round, is that you need to be able to have all these things in place so that Google can say, oh, I see that site. I see that you have all these pages. I see that you've got great content. You've got some great social signals, right? It takes all those things into account when it considers whether to rank you or not. And Google says social signals really isn't a factor. But, if it sees that you have a lot of engagement on LinkedIn, if you're B2B, or Facebook, if you're B2C, and Instagram and other social media channels, it absolutely shows your thought leadership and how invested you are in getting information out to your target audience.
Right. Brilliant. Well, hopefully the small businesses who are listening to this show, I think the points that Peg has mentioned, it's always good to have this checklist ready. It's always good. And these are not really, complex things. It's not rocket science.
Mm-hmm.
It's all, Google has made it so easy. And of course, if there is any technical help is required, you can always reach out to people like Peg to help you guys with some of the complex stuff. But at least to give a start, it's always better to get your hands, onto it and try to learn it. It hardly takes, probably an hour or so to get into it and learn about it and just post about your particular, company into that particular maps and stuff. So it's going to be pretty, pretty a straightforward, optimization that Peg is suggesting.
Right. And
Um,
if you have a webmaster that manages your site, they can set all this up for you. But when I have, as my company generated a local SEO checklist, so
Great.
that's available to folks, and you can provide the link in the show notes if you like. But that's something
Absolutely.
they can download, and that'll kind of give them a nice guideline as to the things they need to do to make sure they're properly optimized locally.
Absolutely. So folks who are listening to this, so in the show notes, we'll be adding this link to that particular checklist. Feel free to download it and use it across. And yeah, Peg. So I'd also like to touch upon the other things. I know we have spoken a lot about the Google Maps and the, and the other modes of optimization, the reviews and all the other things. But, the overall content marketing strategy itself that local business, because if someone is going to search for a furniture store near me, and of course they're going to be competing with the big guys out there. So blog is something which people can think about it. But what's your thought on this? What's your thought, like, can blogs be the effective content marketing strategy that local businesses can use? I know a lot of big guys use it in the international arena. When it comes to local, do you think blogs still make sense?
I'm muted. I do understand where you're coming from on that, and blogging is important. The reason being is that, especially if you have a WordPress site, every time you blog, it's basically a new web page. So it's new content, and Google loves new content. And if the blog post is properly optimized, then it can show up in searches. We want to remember that a blog isn't a sales tool. It is a marketing tool. It's more of a means by which you can do a deeper dive into your thought leadership and the value that you bring to your audience. And then you want to make sure that there's a way to subscribe to the blog, and that also there's a way for them to share your blog with their network. And it's important that they have calls to action on the blogs. So maybe there's a widget on the right side that says, download our most recent, whatever that might be. So it's a vehicle that you can steer people to that primarily is used to add value, to develop thought leadership, and to strengthen your SEO. And from that, through that channel, you can push them to the rest of your website. Because once they go do a deeper dive on the website, then they're going to learn more about what you do, how you do it, and how you might be able to help them. But I wouldn't blog with the idea of getting a sale. I would blog with the idea of helping. Lead with what can I do to add value. Always lead with that, and they will come. Because people don't want to be sold, they want to buy. And there's a big difference between those two philosophies. And you can feel it. I'm sure you can too, right? When you're on a website and you're reading the content, you're reading the blog, whatever, when someone genuinely wants to add value, and when someone is it's a nicely masked way of trying to get you to buy something or sell you something. So it's important that blogging be an important content marketing tool for you. I recommend that you have an editorial calendar so you can be proactive in the subject matter that you're blogging about. And people, when we work with clients, we do a lot of blogging for them. When we do that, or when I advise clients on their digital strategy, and they say, well, I don't know what to blog about. And I say, what are some of the major questions that your audience asks you? Your target audience asks you time and time again. Those are the terms that they're using in a search engine to find you. So use that as a means to build content. Build content around those questions and around those pain points, and they will find you via your blog.
Great. Absolutely. It's a lot of insights. I'm pretty sure someone listening to it, they have a lot of things to walk away from this particular, podcast. So, Peg, it's been a pleasure to host you in this episode. There's a lot of tons of information. Anyways, we'll be releasing the show notes along with it. And in fact, with regards to blog itself, that calls for a separate episode. We can go really detailed about how people can plan about it. And, it's a pleasure to host you, Peg. Thank you so much for sharing your insights. So is there anything else that you'd like to add?
The pleasure was mine. Thank you for having me today. One thing we didn't talk about were citations. And when you're building your Google My Business page, you want to make sure that you're on some of the major directories in your industry, as well as generally speaking. And that will be in the checklist as well, some of the major citations that you want to be registered with, so that you basically increase your chances of getting found in more searches. So citations are important.
Absolutely. And that's the bonus that people are going to get. They're going to get this detailed checklist that Peg and team has created. You guys will find it in the show notes. Feel free to download it and use it. If you have any queries on that, please feel free to reach out to Peg. We'll also add or give a link to her LinkedIn profile. You guys feel free to reach out. And Peg, I'm pretty sure she'll be able to help you guys out. Peg, thank you so much once again. Have a great day. Thank you so much.